Yeah, Wendell Wild is kind of the collision of two worlds, a lost girl who happens to have a connection to the underworld and her personal demons, Wendell and Wild. And it's about her summoning them to change the course of her life. And it's a comedy, fantasy, horror, and drama show. Actually, it was inspired by my kids when they were little, my two grown sons. I did a little sketch of them when they were acting especially demonic. Then I wrote up a 7-page short story and just stuck it away until years later, Key and Peele's show had come on, and I just was dazzled by the inventiveness and performances of those two comedians. Reached out to them, and here we are 7 years later with a movie. Whenever I get to make a film, I'd always prefer to do stop motion. It's what I know, and it's really old-fashioned. It's so old it never gets old because it's old to begin with. But yeah, stop motion is what I love to do most. Yeah, it wasn't the first type of animation I did. I sort of worked my way through traditional animation. I was briefly an animator at Disney. I learned a lot of things there, but I had tried cutout. I eventually did some computer, but it was stop motion. I sort of love the process. It's not that the end result are better movies, but the process of everything physically being there, real lights, real sets. You know, we work with puppets, but there's a hair department and costume, and so it's very much like live action in miniature, and it goes a lot more slowly. But that's the world that I love, and those talents that I work with in that world. When I initially reached out, they knew about my work, and they're interested in doing some voice work for it. But Jordan wanted to meet right away, and it turned out he was a super freak for stop motion animation. He really loved it and knew about it. If you've seen the animated logo for his company, Monkey Paw, it's stop motion animation. So we got to talking, and I pitched the idea, and he wanted to do more. He said, look, I'd love to be involved creatively, be a producer, maybe write with you. And so I was really, really happy. He became my chief creative partner. And then after he made Get Out, also the chief means to getting studios interested in the project. He, there's the essence of my original story remains in most of the characters, but it's really been reshaped and shifted with his input in very creative ways. Really, the characters in particular, he added so much, just to rethinking and seeing things in a new way. Yeah, that was a perfect match between technique and story and material, and I think that Wendell Wild is as well. There's something about stop motion that's inherently creepy, but also fun. It's like toys brought to life. Everyone senses there's something uncanny about the movements and so forth. It's never going to be perfect. It's always going to have flaws. But I think that those flaws, they take it down a notch from being too intense. But that inherent creepiness just adds something to the mood. Pretty much after I met up, with Key and Peele in 2015, and then when working with Jordan, over the next couple of years, we just ping-ponged back and forth about what were his interests in the film, and sort of shifted the protagonist. He made strong suggestions, but they always felt right. I never kind of had found any fault with what he was pushing for, and so initially it was 2 years of exploration. I would usually do the first writing and treatments, first drafts, and so forth, and he'd review, and then he had his input. And early on, I reached out to an illustrator named Pablo Lobato because I always wanted that the design of the demons, and maybe a few other characters, resemble the voice actors. I kind of felt like if I'm going to be working with Key and Peele, I kind of wanted the demons to look a little bit like them. And so Pablo coming on board very early also contributed a lot to our thought process of just who these demons are and what the world is that they live in. And eventually, we got it together and went out and pitched it. Netflix was the best choice for us, and then it took, these things take a little time to stop motion. Production's been almost 4 years with it. One of those years being added because of the pandemic, because we had to shut down. A lot of CG animation people can work at home, but not all of us can work at home because we shoot on real stages with real lights. So we had to close the studio for a while till we figured it out and came back on. It would have been, it still would have been a long time of actual production. Probably would have been closer to 3 years, but that's how long. And then there's pre-production, which is a couple of years. Post-production, 6 months. We're talking a commitment. We had the pandemic. We had a threat of fires. We had to rescue the puppets from the stages because the fires in Oregon near Portland were so bad and getting close. We figured, well, if we saved the puppets, we could still finish the movie. So we had a puppet rescue. But luckily, fire stopped, and we went through a lot of biblical attacks. What was it called? A heat dome. Super hot, ice storms, what have you, frogs and plagues.